What's up guys, it's the Redhawk Director and welcome to the first audio recording of Redhawk Rates. So basically, I've done a couple update videos about what Redhawk Rates is, but it's basically a non-YouTube side project that I do. I do it on Blogspot because that's the only place I could find that worked well for it. And essentially what it is, well, I'll explain what it is in a second, but the reason I'm doing this audio recording is because it gives people on YouTube a way to listen to this or watch this without having to go to the site. Basically, I've finished 004 just recently. I'm moving on to 005. So if you want to see the latest ones, then go on the site and go look at it. I'll link it in the description. But I will do these recordings every now and then to kind of bring this series to YouTube. And there's not really anything you gain from listening to it on YouTube. I might make a snark or two, but in general, this is mostly going to be essentially like an audiobook. I'm just going to be reading straight from the website. But for those who don't want to, read, for those who just want to listen, that's what this is for as well as for people who just are too lazy to go there. But anyway, I'm gonna put on my best radio voice, and I'm gonna read through all 7 of my reviews / ratings for Monstercat 001, as well as the introduction post, what Redhawk Rates is. And I probably won't do any editing for this, so I'll probably stammer a lot, and that's okay. You're gonna have to live with that. So, what Redhawk Rates is. So this is a little side project I'll be working on. I don't know how often I'll update this little thing. I'll aim for once every day or two, but don't hold me to that. If I ever fall behind, I'll either rapid fire update it or forget about it. / Anyway, what this is my personal project to attempt to rate every song on Monstercat. Every single one. Not every upload or every song on a compilation album. Every single song. The way I'm going to do this is not entirely original. In fact, it's not original at all. It's borrowed from a guy named Phaser on YouTube. His YouTube doesn't exist. Don't check it out because he closed it. The way he rated his songs is that he had a 10-point system based on 10 categories. Vocals / theme. If there are vocals, how good are they? If there is a theme, how good is it? Thematic prominence. How much is the theme present within the song? Sound design. How well designed is everything within the song? Automatic 1.00 for every 7 minutes dead song. Samples. Are the samples used good, and how much do they make the song better or worse? Build up / breakdown. Does the song generate hype well, and does it transition from these hype-worthy drop sections well? Drop. How good is the drop? Duh. Variation. How much does the song change it up? Uniformity. How well does the song flow? Originality. Is the song fresh and exciting, or trite and nothing new? Bearability. Does this song get boring after a while? All these categories should speak for themselves for the most part. A 1.0 or an A means that the producer did great in this category. A B or a 0.75 is good. A 0.50 or a C is average. A D or 0.25 is not good, and a flat 0 or an F means producer didn't even try. There's also F-, which is actually minus 0.25, but I've only had to use it on one category on one song so far. I'm pretty sure that's going to change by the end of the series, though. Dubstep Killed Rock and Roll by Afixa. On the 4th of July, Canada gave their best gift ever to the United States by giving us what was then called Monstercat Media. Of course, the label has grown a lot since then, but for now, the first song was Dubstep Killed Rock and Roll, and it was dubstep. But more importantly, it was 2011 Monstercat dubstep. That being said, there's a little bit more to it than that. Let's get into the rating. The spacey theme to this song is nothing special, but it at least gives the song something to be based around. As with all of Afixa's early songs on the label, there are no vocals here. The spacey theme is present in the intro and the second half of each drop, but the first halves, especially of the second drop, don't feature it much. Nowadays, this would be a D, but I'm scaling for the sound design standards of 2011 Monstercat. There's nothing special here, but there's also not anything horrible either. The samples used don't really help or hurt the song in any way. This is pretty standard dubstep. Nothing more, nothing less. The build-ups are very generic for what they are, but the breakdown is quick and to the point and is one of the highlights of the song to me. The beginning of the first and second drops are different, even if not by much. That's enough variation to get the song a high grade for 2011. What's going on here is somewhat inconsistent, as the drops don't quite fit the intro and midsection enough. Dubstep Killed Rock and Roll is very basic 2011 Monstercat dubstep, with not too many interesting ideas other than the very short midsection. Unlike most songs from this era, Dubstep Killed Rock and Roll hold up to some extent today. It's short enough and varied enough to where it remains somewhat fresh after a few listens. There is nothing particularly outstanding about this song, but Afixa made a 2011 Monstercat dubstep song that doesn't suck. So hats off to the Penguin Man. Not accounting for anything special about this being the first song on Monstercat, this is not a bad song at all. Just don't go into it expecting too much. The Force by Halo Nova. Before Varian was Varian, he was Halo Nova. Before he was doing epic orchestral music, he was doing chiptune dubstep? Yeah, that sounds about right. The major theme here is chiptune and video game stuff. It's not an entirely original idea, but it works. It also has no vocals like a ton of early Monstercat songs. But at least the chiptune is everywhere in this song and is tied together pretty well. Both drops have just enough of it without being overwhelming. For early Monstercat, there is some really cool sound design here. It's Varian though, so there's no surprise here. The video game samples are a bit trite, and the couple of vocal chops present do not really add anything interesting to the song. The first drop isn't great, but the second drop is fantastic for its time. It really brings this grade up. There is little to no build up in this song, and the breakdowns are minimal at best. The intro and midsection are different, and the first and second drops are totally different. This has amazing variation for a 2011 Monstercat song. The only thing really tying this thing together is the video game influence, and while that's great for variation, it doesn't really work for uniformity in this case. It's chiptune. Chiptune's rarely going to have a very high score here, unfortunately. The Force definitely holds up, and it's almost never going to get old. For 2011 Monstercat standards, this is a good song. Like all of Halo Nova's songs, this one isn't too well known, but it should be more popular than it is. It's aged much better than most of the label's catalog from back then has, and a few flaws keep the song from being a great one. Still Walking by Stephen Walking. Stephen Walking has been great throughout the entire history of Monstercat, and like so many, he made his debut with dubstep. How good is it? Well, I'm not really sure what the theme of the song is supposed to be. Maybe something urban? I don't know. It just seems very themeless. Since I don't know quite what the theme is, I don't know what the hell to do here. The production on this is actually surprisingly decent, with many layers to it. The mixdown isn't awful either. Stephen Walking samples Clay Davis. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. I got sick of this drop very quickly, unfortunately. There isn't a whole ton of punch to it. Very standard build-ups and breakdowns here. Clay Davis is the only redeeming feature. The midsection provides some variation. Both drops are very similar. The song sounds well placed together, and the ordering of the song sounds about right. Dubstep? It's been done before. There are trap hi-hats though and guitar, so there's some originality. It's very easy to get sick of this song, I've found. I got sick of it just listening to it for this rating. There are some really cool things going on here, but it's not enough to save this song from some very mediocre things going on. Clay Davis earns my eternal respect for Stephen Walking though. Cold Blood and Ice Cream Cones by Arion. The first non-dubstep song on Monstercat is here, and it's Cold Blood and Ice Cream Cones, the debut song by Arion on the label. It's electro house with some dubstep sprinkled here and there, and a lot of people like it. Do I like it as much as everyone else? Well, thank God there are no vocals. Arion doesn't seem to do very well with those. The theme is supposed to be somewhat chiptune-y, but not totally, so it's a little muddled. Since I don't know quite what the theme is supposed to be here, I can't really give this anything other than a proverbial D. This isn't great sound design, but at the same time, it certainly isn't bad, especially for 2011 Monstercat. I know I say that a lot, but trust me, it'll make sense with a few songs. Some samples work very well here, especially some of the white noise, and some aren't as good, like the wailing noise in parts of the drop. The drops aren't especially hard hitting, but they have quite a bit going on, so they get a passing grade. There isn't much to the build-ups or breakdowns in this song, but they're at least there, and they generate some hype. There's a bit of variation in the song with a dubstep drop thrown in, and the drops not being very stale. The orchestral bit in the middle adds non-drop variation as well. The song goes pretty well with itself. That's kind of all I have to say here, nothing super profound. This isn't the most original electro house song in the world, but at the same time, it's pretty unlike anything else on the label other than Arion's other electro house song. This song hasn't aged super well, but the variation makes it a decent listen nowadays. This song is totally mediocre, which back in the day certainly isn't a bad thing. There was some horrible stuff on the label, and Arion joined in on that from time to time. This, however, wasn't a horrible song in the slightest sense of the word, and I'm totally okay with that. Hello by Going Quantum. Hello is the debut song by longtime Monstercat staff member Going Quantum, and is the only song on the label that was produced by only him. Tristram co-produced Raw, although it's unsure how much he had to do with the production. It was also one of the most popular songs early in the history of the label. How well has it aged? The song, much like Dubstep Killed Rock and Roll, goes for a spacey theme, and it pulls it off pretty well, I must say. I'll continue to hammer in that the only positive that this song still has is that the theme is prominent throughout the song. By the way, I'm going to make an interjection now. I'm aware this is going to sound out of order because it was back in the day. Phaser had it ordered differently than me, and I used his order throughout 001 and maybe during 002 as well, so that might be the reason why it's different. The sound design is nothing special at all, and in fact there are some areas where the song's not very well produced at all. This song does not stand the test of time as far as this goes. A lot of the samples do well in establishing the space theme, although there are a few samples that are there for no apparent reason. Hello, random turret from Portal. The drop is very flat on this song, and there's very little to be excited about, unfortunately. The build-up generates absolutely no hype, and does not do anything to establish the song in any capacity. It's just a crossfade. There's almost no variation in this song at all. I'm only not giving it a flat 0 because the drop does evolve somewhat, albeit not very much. There are random sounds here and there, but overall the song isn't structured terribly. The space theme isn't entirely original, nor is any other aspect of the song. This song is completely unbearable to me. I'm sick of the song after listening to it twice for this review, actually. In fact, I'm sick of it and I haven't even listened to it anytime recently while I'm voicing this over. I'll admit, the grade is way higher than I expected the song to get. This is mostly because Phaser's grading scale is, for better or for worse, very rewarding to songs that have a good concept and poor execution. This is exactly the problem that Hello has, and if I were rating it personally, it'd probably be about a point lower. When I rated it for my Monstercat Retroactive Reviews series, I gave it a 2, and it would be very similar now. Atlas by Faint. We've finally gotten to drum and bass. D&B is one of my favorite genres in electronic music, and Faint does it quite well. Atlas is his debut on the label, and well, it's time to see if it lives up to Faint's standards. Atlas is going for a very epic, dire theme, and I would say that it pulls it off with flying colors. The dramatic sounds are all over this song, and Faint does a good job with making them sound good within the song. The sound design isn't necessarily crisp, but compared to some other early Faint songs, the mixdown's actually decent. The samples are few and far between, but the ones that are there work pretty decently with the song. The drop perfectly matches what Faint is going for, I'd say. It's dramatic sounding, but it's still something you can bang your head to. The build-up properly builds hype, but it may be the weakest part of the song. The breakdown, meanwhile, is fantastic. There are multiple different melodies throughout the song, and all get pretty equal time in the foreground. There is variation in the off-drop segments, too. The three main melodies work very well together, as well as everything in the background. While rock-infused drum and bass is nothing new, hey Pendulum, being mixed with dramatic sounding synths isn't totally unoriginal. This is a song unlike any other on Monstercat, especially this early. The song is somewhat long, and some of the melodies get tiring after a while. Still, this isn't on early Project 46 level of unbearable by any means. This is one of the best early songs in Monstercat. There isn't anything extremely weak about the song, and the strong points are very strong. I'd love to hear what this song would sound like with Faint's modern production skills. I think it'd be quite great. Captivating by Neelio. Hardstyle is not a genre that I'm particularly fond of, although I don't harbor the same hate for it that others seem to. During Neelio's time on the label, he exclusively makes this genre, so being neutral about his songs is hard. However, here it goes. There aren't vocals on this song as much as there are speech samples, so that will go in the samples category. However, the theme of passion is present throughout the song, so that earns it a decent grade. The vocal samples are well integrated throughout the song, and the melodies back up the theme that the samples create. One thing Neelio was actually pretty good at during his time on the label was sound design, and here the production is actually pretty good. I love the vocal samples used throughout the song, and everything else is pretty good. It's hard to love hardstyle for me, so this is almost always going to get a pretty poor grade. The build-ups create some hype, and the breakdowns prepare the song for the next section as well, but overall, there isn't anything particularly amazing in these sections. There is actually quite a bit of variation throughout the song, along with two genres. Besides the hardstyle, the first and last drop are both hard trance, so decent grade for that. Unlike some of Neelio's songs, the different parts of this song go pretty well with each other. Hardstyle is a genre that is pretty experimental, but I don't think Neelio went out on a limb as much as he could have. This song isn't entirely unbearable, but at the same time, it doesn't hold up particularly well either. This is a song that I'm not particularly fond of, but I can admit that Neelio does some really cool stuff with this one. The samples and the theme that the samples create are the high points of Captivating, in my opinion. Monstercat 001 Launch Week, Final Review. I guess I'll be doing one of these once we reach the conclusion of compilation album, so I may as well do this for Monstercat 001 Launch Week as well. Here it goes. Debuts: Arion, Efixa, Faint, Going Quantum, Halo Nova, Neelio, and Stephen Walking. Biggest surprise: Halo Nova's The Force is one of the least popular songs in Monstercat from 2011, but despite that, this is a song that has a surprising amount of depth to it. Biggest disappointment: Hello by Going Quantum is one of the most repetitive songs on the label, and ultimately fails to capitalize on the high amount of promise it had. Biggest highlight: Atlas by Faint is the first drum and bass song on Monstercat, and it's also the best and most well done song on Monstercat 001 if you ask me. My ranking: number 7, Hello, 3.25. Number 6, Still Walking, 3.75. Number 5, Captivating, 4.75. Number 4, Cold Blood and Ice Cream Cones, 4.75. Number 3, Dubstep Killed Rock and Roll, 5.00. Number 2, The Force, 6.00. Number 1, Atlas, 7.00. The average album rating, 4.93. Final thoughts. For the first compilation album on Monstercat, I was pleasantly surprised with how decent most of the songs on here were. 5 out of the 7 got decent to good grades, and 2 of those got above average grades. The lack of tremendous songs on the album brings the grade down, as do 2 songs grading in the 3s, but overall, this is a higher average grade than I expected this album to get. And there you go, there's the audiobook rendition of Monstercat 001 Redhawk Rates. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do more of these, or if you prefer reading them on the website, but I don't mind making these at all. I think they're an interesting way to put this series onto my YouTube channel without forcing me to make them only on my YouTube channel. Again, if you want to get them more often than now, because I'll probably only be putting them up like every 2 or 3 weeks at this rate, unless you guys really want them, but even then I can only go as fast as I make them. If you want the newest reviews, make sure to check that out, redhawkrates.blogspot.com, and hopefully you enjoyed today. I've had some pretty low quality content the last couple of days, or at least low quality as far as how long I had to make them, because I actually have a lot of stuff in the near future that's going to take me a bit longer to do. So I've had a busy schedule since moving in, and since I've got work starting and school starting, so I apologize for being a little bit busy and for not responding to comments and all that. That's just part of what's going on. To keep the daily upload schedule, I have to sacrifice other things, but whatever. Hope you guys enjoyed this video otherwise.